Well, it's probably the only proactive tool that we have to turn around and, be proactive on finding leaks. I mean, you want to enhance your system, give me a better toy. This is it. So it might not be the most appropriate tool, but it's the only one that we have in our little toolbox. I think it's, I'm really happy that we bought this. This point about the sounding systems, that's just complimentary to the satellite photos telling you where to look. Any other concerns?
Oh, that's fine. Motion. Seifert moves to approve a proposal for Australia for $18,000.
Second.
Roll call.
Dukenyak, aye.
Richards, aye.
Seifert, aye.
Cudahy, aye.
Okay, final payment to Rawson Avenue.
Yeah, that's final payment of the hydrant relocation. We did a little bit of main valve insertion out there, but it was really getting out of the county's way for the construction that they're doing. Done with that project, we can finally get to the final pay portion. So this payment is $37,781.09.
So this should complete it, Mike?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Any concerns?
Good.
Get a motion?
Seifert moves to approve the final payment for the Rawson Avenue hydrant relocation project for $37,781.09.
Second.
Roll call.
Dukenyak, aye.
Richards, aye.
Seifert, aye.
Cudahy, aye.
I know. Why don't we talk about any concerns on the audit, Baker Tilly audit?
The only thing I'd really point out there is their sort of glowing review in each of the categories. They indicate that there's no material deficiencies or any concerns that they had. They feel that the statements were reported accurately and fairly. There was no disagreements with the auditors. They, again, sort of as per usual, everything is up to snuff on the financial statements.
Give me a minute to go through all my notes here. I'll be
40 pages.
You can skip about 39 3/4 of them.
Well, that's not uncommon with these audits. Most of it, 95% is boilerplate.
Mike, how long have they been doing the audit for us?
Oh boy, really long time. Baker Tilly's been doing it, and Virgil Kraus before them, a really long time. I couldn't, 25 years, I couldn't really venture to guess.
Finally kind of get used to them.
With some comments about water utility at the end, working with the IT department. Utility should work with its IT department and department managers to determine a population listing of contracts that would fall under this standard to determine the potential future impact to financial reporting. This goes back to, the future gas peak changes.
Yeah.
And there were a couple of them there that are like leases for the end of this year.
Yep.
Do we have a list of how many leases?
Oh yeah.
I don't know how many we do, but I assume the city does a pile of them. And that's all taking effect the first of the year.
Right. Yeah, we have been tracking that for a while now, so we're ready for it coming up.
I think that's what the audit was trying to poke us in that direction there. Any other concerns on the audit?
No concerns.
Okay, how about a motion? Any concerns on the invoices on the accounts payable section? Okay, Sully, page 8. Higgins Tower Service.
Yep.
What's that all about?
They put a communications tower up at Janet Pump Station. We were getting intermittent signal loss there with our radio network up to Sycamore Tower. And as we, Steve, our street lighting guy, he brought his bucket truck out, he went up and you can't see the tower anymore with all the growth of the trees and that. So we needed higher elevation. So Higgins put a tower up there for us and that's been working out really well.
Page 3, that's CH2M Hill.
Yes.
What do we have with CH2M Hill?
So right now they're working on, they're finishing up, they're continuing their work on our PLC project. Most of this though is their work on the carbon feed system. So we're looking at the carbon feeder replacement project. They've been doing the design on that.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to jump to page 15. Aquatic informatics, annual backflow prevention software. I didn't even know we had such a thing.
We did. It used to be called Dixon, and it was Hydro Designs for a while. This is the new company name, but they handle all of the, so when we send out all of our inspection requests and then do our inspection and fill out our reports, it's all handled through this software. It's all coordinated through that software.
Any other concerns on vouchers?
No concerns.
Get a motion to approve vouchers.
Lippert moves to approve the vouchers in the amount of $537,897.45.
Next second.
Roll call.
Aye.
Richards, aye.
Lippert, aye.
Cudahy.
Okay. Administrative and operations reports.
So a few things I suppose I have here on the administrative report. I don't have an investment report for you. Our accounting manager, Derek, has moved on. He's no longer with us. So I don't have that report for you this time. We're going to work on getting that filled in going forward. But what I can tell you is the LGIP is up to 0.98%. So we're
rolling.
Yes, you're right. We're going in the right direction on that savings account for sure. Customer changes, any large or small customer changes, there really wasn't in commercial, not a lot of big change there. Again, We Energies is really up a lot, or continues to be up, I should say, and that's probably about. A few others were down. I don't want to mention them by name, but a few others were down, but I guess some were up. And you can see that in the report here. There's not a lot of percent change on the sales. For engineering, a couple things to note there. The Susan water main relay and the 2022 sanitary rehab, we are looking for a September start is when we think those projects will get going. It appears that they have all the pieces and parts to get moving on that. Forest Hill Manor, of course, we're getting ready to do that for next year. Other one I'd like to highlight is the American Sanitary Sewer So on American Avenue, underneath that really narrow railroad bridge, we've got to replace the sanitary sewer there. That's been a heck of a challenge. It's been really difficult to work with the railroad on it. They told us, send us a set of plans and we'll let you know if we like it. Well, could we do this or could we do that? Send us a set of plans, we'll tell you if we like it. So that's kind of where we're at there. There's a lot of stuff under the ground in that area, and we're finding it really difficult to be able to get a new pipe through there. So one of the options we were looking at is pipe bursting. We need to go 2 sizes larger with that main. If we can burst that pipe, that would be ideal for us. But was there a casing in the 30s when that main was put in? So we did go out and pothole it, found out there's not a casing, so we're happy about that. But we also have to closely intercept that pipe on the west end of the bridge because it sits right on top of, right below our main transmission main coming out of the treatment plant. So you can't pipe burst it there, right? You really can't dig it there. So it's been a very challenging project of try and find out how this is going to all line up. But we're making progress. It looks like pipe bursting is going to be the way to go. We're happy with the results of that potholing that we did.
You can ask them at the same time when they're going to replace the bridge.
Right. We're afraid they're going to ask us to do that. So that's kind of it for engineering. The Franklin radio tower. So we've got a radio to monitor the tower elevation of Franklin's water tower. That's been out for probably a couple of years now. With Franklin talking about going to another supplier, maybe it's not a benefit to repair that radio. Do we really need it for our operations? All of the operators who had that information said, absolutely, I can use that information. It helps me manage what we do in our high zone. The younger operators that have never had it don't really know the difference. So they kind of don't know what they're missing. So we decided to take another crack at it. Franklin's certainly willing and supportive of us trying to get that done. We did find a failed radio. We've moved the antenna twice now. We've replaced the antenna cable. It's doing fine. It's doing fine now. It's not at 100%. It's probably at about 70%. So about 70% of the data comes through on it. We're looking to try and dial that in, get a little bit better. You stand on top of the tower and you can see Sycamore Tower perfectly clear with no obstruction whatsoever. But our radio signal is strongest in that location compared to Orchard Way, but we can't get the data through going to Sycamore Tower. And we think it's the interference of the cell phone antennas that are up on top of there that are causing that. So currently we've got it pointed to Orchard. We're looking at a higher strength antenna that maybe can improve that yet. So it's just it's an ongoing project that we've been working on, but it's great success. And now the newer operators are seeing the benefit of having that data, which is really good.
Solely refresh my memory.
Yeah.
Centennial Sewer Relay, where are we at with that one?
So, yeah, that's a great question. We're just about ready for bid on that one. The issue has been trying to get a permit. When we did, one agency liked the solution, another agency didn't like the solution. So in that case, I believe it was Army Corps that didn't like the solution. So we've come back with another one. I believe everyone's happy with it now. It's kind of a bit of moving the stream and relocating the manhole at the same time. It's not really any one solution. So we think we're on a really good path there. It's taking a lot longer than we'd hoped. But we think we have a solution there, so that's good. Distribution.
Is that something that we'd still be seeing in 22, or is that going to be pushed?
It'll be 23 for sure. Yeah. And that's largely just getting all the parts to do the work.
Okay.
We're realizing that all over the place. I don't think I highlighted it. Maybe it's under the
Oh, you did in a
plans.
couple spots. Yeah.
Well, either way, I'll step out of turn. It doesn't matter. Our PLC project at the treatment plant, we've been waiting for parts and waiting for parts. They were supposed to be in January, and then they got moved later, and then they got moved to July, and now they've got moved to March of next year. So that project, again, is on hold until March of next year, and hopefully we can get the parts. So we're worried that if there's any delay then, we're going to cause a delay and tell them they can't do work until the fall. So we can do it until we start heavy pumping. So hopefully the parts actually come in March and we can start undertaking some of that work. So yeah, that's projects just really dragged on. On distribution, a couple things to note there was the use of our new generator at the Garden lift station. When we had that power outage, we were out for about 19 hours there. That generator just hums and purrs. It's quiet. It doesn't need to be filled with fuel constantly. So the guys were kind of a little bit apprehensive. I guess we can leave the generator here. They parked it in with a truck and they were able to leave and come back later, and it was still running and purring and just doing a fantastic job. So really, that was a good use of that and a good long-term exposure to it. In addition, we served, you've probably heard, we served South Milwaukee for two plus days, either fully or partially. Had our connections open to them. They did have to have a boil water because they had reduced pressure in their system. We are updating some of our protocols for serving them or anybody for that matter to try and tighten that up and ensure that no water comes back to Oak Creek once it goes to any place, to South Milwaukee in this case. We don't, if there's a boil water in South Milwaukee, we don't want the DNR saying if there's a chance of that water coming back to Oak Creek, then Oak Creek's going to have a boil water as well. So we want to make sure that we're protected while also being, you know, sort of courteous or generous and helping out our neighbor. So we've got some protocols to update for that. It's also a little bit of some things were done years ago that made a lot of sense then. And now you're like, well, wait a minute, you don't have the full history on that. A good example is there's a hose connection between two hydrants on Kristen Drive. It's on the South Milwaukee side. If you ever drive by, you'll see one hydrant painted Oak Creek colors and one painted South Milwaukee colors. We have a hose that's sealed up that's used to connect those two hydrants together to feed South Milwaukee. That was put in many years ago. We have rarely used that hose. It's not exactly sealed in the bag any longer. The hydrants are not safe for drinking out of unless they've been chlorinated and tested. So if you use that hose, you're pretty much under a boil water order. I mean, that's a hose of last resort, but that's something that in the moment wasn't really recognized by either system. You know, some of the people that hadn't been involved in it, hadn't used it, thought, oh, that's right, we have that hose connection, we can put that on. Well, wait a minute. South Milwaukee asked for it, we did use it, but from our perspective, we're now looking at backflow prevention on that hose to ensure that that can never come back to Oak Creek. And that's a device, or that's a connection that Oak Creek would use as literally a last resort. If we can't find water anyplace else, we put that on because that's unsafe for drinking. Not necessarily that anyone's going to get sick with it, but you can't prove that it was safe like the rest of the system. So that's something that we want to do. We're also adding pressure gauges to each one of the connections on both sides, again, to ensure that water doesn't come back to Oak Creek. It didn't in this case. We're confident in that. We did have pressure gauges on, but we're confident with that, and that we were filling South Milwaukee's tower. When they got to a point where they were slowing down in that fill, they asked us to shut off. We shut off. They worked through the night. They did have a pump going for a pretty fair portion of this event, but they had real trouble. It also pointed out, boy, I hate to waste a lot of time here. They also pointed out a really good design component in that all of their pumps are new. They just completed a project, very expensive project, that they put in variable frequency drives so they can dial in the flow that they want. That's the wave of the future. We've had it for a while, but that's the wave of the future. That's what you would want to have. However, they had a problem with their drive system on those VFDs that took them all out. So maybe it's not so smart to have all VFDs. Maybe you need to have a standard pump or two that you can use in that emergency. You can use them all the time, but use in that emergency that you can't dial in. But then if you have a drive or a software problem or something like that, it doesn't wipe out your whole system. So we learned a big lesson from that. Glad we were involved in it with South Milwaukee. It informs our projects going forward on the treatment plant. So that was really helpful.
I have a question to that service that was provided. Did we build that community for services that they receive?
Yes.
Okay. I just didn't know if there was some type of agreement between communities in cases of emergency if, you know, you provided free of charge. I'm glad to hear that.
Nope. PSC requires us to charge. So South Milwaukee is actually starting to work on a quantity for us. It's easier for them. So we'll verify that quantity, and then we'll have to send them a bill.
Thank you.
Those service valves, you know, the South Milwaukee, don't we open those at least once a year as part of our?
Yes. We exercise them with them. Yes.
Did we have any issues opening those valves up then?
We did not. No. The one area I think that we haven't done in a couple of years anyhow is the connections we have with Milwaukee. We haven't exercised those, so we're going to work on getting a hold of Milwaukee and getting those exercised. We had it scheduled at one point and then it got canceled, so we do want to get back at that. There again,
never know when you're going to need them.
That's exactly right. Yeah, so we want to make sure they're operational when we need them.
Mike, do we also have a hookup with Cudahy if there's a problem with their water?
We do. Yeah, we do. That's a fun story. We planned on doing it when the post office was going to go in at Pennsylvania and College, and then it didn't go in for years. Cudahy put their line in on the Oak Creek side, and then it just sat there for a number of years. Now that the post office is in, that connection is in there as well. So yes, we could feed feed Cudahy. They could feed us as well. Yeah. Incidentally, that line that comes across College Avenue is indicated on the satellite leak detection piece. So we called Cudahy and said they might have a leak on that line.
I love it.
We'll get the charger for that service.
Plant operations compared to last year.
Sully, wait,
Oh, yes, sir.
I wanted to talk just briefly about the CMOM and the CMAR report. Give Darren a big pat on the back for putting that puppy together again. I would strongly recommend that the rest of the board members read at least the CMOM report. You will be very impressed with what you read in regards to what Oak Creek's public utility is all about. I mean, it's probably going to take you a good 20 plus minutes, but it's great reading material to understand the background of what utility goes through. So,
I will have them sent out to each of you.
if I'm not mistaken, I'm not, like we're cleaning over 200,000 feet a year on doing inspections and cleaning. That's unbelievable. And if I'm not mistaken, isn't our goal or target something like 20 or 25% of the mains in the city?
Yes, yes,
Every year.
yes.
That's phenomenal. And then one of the other things I think I caught in this CMAR report, we're pushing $1 million sitting there for equipment replacement. That's why, we get that grade A. The CMAR report is like the points on your driver's license. You accumulate
Right.
points. Don't ask me about mine. But with the CMAR report, we haven't accumulated any points. And I think we've had a pretty clean record for, God, I'm guessing over 10 years.
Yeah, since it started.
It's probably started 13 years ago.
Yeah, I think the stipulation was 2002, so it would have been right around then.
And we had a ding for something. I don't remember exactly what it was, but for like 2 years, we had to turn around and carry a whoops. But other than that, it's been extremely clean.
So the piece I'd like to highlight on the plant is all of there's a lot of red numbers here, negative numbers. That's comparing last June to this June. And so that's not uncommon. If you have a really dry, and it was really dry last June, so you sold a lot of water, pumped a lot of water that month compared to this month, this year. The numbers that I think are a bit more interesting are the yearly pumpage. So you can see how it's gone through the year and we're still up there. And it appears that July is going to be a pretty strong month as well so far. The other piece there, of course, Mike's very proud of the staff. We had that 19-hour power outage at the treatment plant as well. We lost both feeds from We Energies. Our generator had a few problems getting started and staying started. And we had one operator on duty at the time. We were able to stabilize that and get it going, and that generator just purred. This is the longest run of that generator since it was installed. So we're really, with generators, there's one at the low lift and one at the plant. So we're happy that both of those worked well. We're working there again. We found a lot of protocol adjustments that can be made as a result of a long-term outage like that. There was a number of VFDs, incidentally, that don't come back on when they come back on the generator for whatever reason. So we need to make sure those are listed, and we're modifying a few of them to try and get them to auto restart the way they're supposed to. It's just all things that the operator needs to be aware of when something like that happens. We're also going to change our staffing level and go to an immediate 2-person staffing when we have the generator running. When we have power outage like that, there's too much running around that comes up too quickly for the operator to operate the plant and deal with those fires that happen. So everything worked out really well. And lastly, one of the items that we recognize in some of our internal reviews a couple of years ago, and we're still working on, is getting a vendor on retainer, you might say, to have a skid loaded diesel generator that they can pull in and have a place for us to plug in case our generator doesn't work. How do we back that up? What do we do? Some places will have a natural gas tank, so the natural gas supply is good for them. That's not worked out really well in a lot of cases. We think having someone on staff that can pull in a different fuel source with a generator that can run, it's not necessarily going to be a cheap operation to get that to connect into our system. It's probably going to come when we have new electrical gear in there, but it is something that we want to look at to be that resiliency to be able to weather through any of that, those outages.
Plan. Talking about those VFDs, who is our consultant that oversaw the installation of those puppies for us? Maybe we want to go back and talk to them about backup plans if we can't bring them all back online.
So we actually did it ourselves. When we had Alan Bradley's in there for a long time, and I'm not sure who helped us out with those. When those started to fail and we couldn't get replacement parts, we ended up contracting with the Yaskawa to put in drives, and we've been very happy with them. One little power board failure, but it wasn't that difficult to get, at least at that time. For right now, the good news is we only have 2 at the raw water pump station, and we have ample pumps down there to make up the difference. Operators can't dial in the flow that they want. So there'll be a little bit of starting and stopping, not good for energy usage or low demand, but if that's what you have to do in that emergency, then that works. So, yeah.
It certainly sounds like, Mr. Obie had a lot on his hands for those outages. Concerns for Sully? Okay, another Sully's. Engineering, Public Works.
Everything you want to mention? How much? And Ashley and Andrew, please fill in the details, but I just wanted to send kudos along to the engineering team. If you look down under the design and construction updates, we did secure a Green Solutions grant, pretty hefty dollar amount for 2 different projects. The rehabilitation of the parking lot at PD, which is long overdue, and as well as the additional parking capacity for the forthcoming construction of the pavilion at Abendschein Park, which really probably makes that project feasible in the first place, given what we're seeing in the environment right now. So is that total 550 for both, or was the 550 just for, I know the total award at MMSD was 550. I'm not sure how that all breaks out.
550 was, we're actually waiting right now to send those back to send both of those to council. We're waiting on approval of the funding transfer from the PPII money.
Right.
I think 550 was just what was in the Green Solutions in it initially, and I think.
Awesome. No, I know it was quick work and a little finagling to direct those monies. And again, as Andrew mentioned, pulling them out of the PPI 2 project, and it's really making some of these projects come now, and as opposed to really having to plan them out financially. It's a significant sum of money, and we love MMSD. They're great partners, as you know. So great programming.
Question was, wasn't the parking lot draining to the retention pond to begin with? At least at the PD?
I believe it does make its way there eventually.
I guess what I'm leading to, does the permeable brick or whatever you guys putting in, does that really benefit us if you're already draining to the retention pond?
It would give us additional capacity, and also the way that parking lot is shaped, all the water kind of channels into the center right now. So that gives a little bit better way to capture that water, and also hopefully it'll last a little bit longer than the conventional asphalt parking lot has lasted.
I've just never seen the retention pond at the PD that full, but I assume all we gotta do is have one of our 500-year events and we'll have it full, but, you know, sometimes I'm not always sure that that makes sense. See, and clearly the parking lot at the PD is what, 20 years old? So it's probably time for a facelift.
The only other thing I'd like to mention is the construction of the Stonebrook on the Park development, which is really a long time in the making. I mean, Dale, you're probably really familiar with this over the years, but this is the former Utke property just to the west of Abendschein Park. Really, really nice development for that area. Fred's familiar being on Plan Commission. It's actually 66 single-family units, 33 buildings side by side. Really good-looking product. Really excited to bring on some lesser dense development and, you know, more of the single family that is strategical for the community. So it looks like we're ready to go, hopefully in July, but by the end of July, if we get the development agreement done on the 19th in front of the Common Council. So I think we're excited about that. And I mean, many different layouts. It's actually a challenging piece of property. You wouldn't think it's as challenging as it is. And of course, we'll have to take a look at improvements to the access ingress egress road at Abendschein Park and bringing that up to a certain standard. But all in all, a good development for us. We're really excited about it.
I do have a question. I'm not certain who to direct it to. This is in regard to some design and construction updates. I'm sure all of us get questions from neighbors and for the electeds and city staff from constituents about the Drexel Avenue rehab. The report indicates that the project September, at the entire project or just the westbound?
The entire project has a completion date of September 2nd. So currently, they should be switching traffic. So essentially, closing down eastbound and then flipping traffic over in about 2 weeks. So they are running approximately 2 weeks behind schedule. That was due to some material delays scheduling. DOT has not recognized any of that as a delay. So they still are required to meet that September 2nd completion date.
That's real.
Yes.
Two of them are sitting right here, right?
Public Works, there's a comment about, we will be conducting some grading and capping work for the MMMSD project at 1436 East Forest Hill. The property eventually being deeded over to the city. What's that all about?
Is that the greenhouse?
I believe that's the greenhouse property, yes. So DPW is doing some work to help out the city with that, just some grading and whatnot. So they had gotten a right of entry, the city did, in order to complete that work. So they were bringing in some fill, grading out the area, and then it's going to be turned over to the city.
So is it publicly owned or privately owned, or who owns it now?
I believe MMSD currently owns it right now.
They bought that property out?
You know, I'm not exactly sure.
That belonged to a former alderman here.
It was a few years ago when that project got started, so we're working on the details, but I do believe in the after effect, we own the property and it's a partnership to get that property cleaned up with MMSD. I don't have all of those specifics, but I know the idea is title transfers to the city after the.
Oh, it's a big floodplain area.
I know we had to get that right of entry from MMSD, so that's why I believe MMSD currently owns it.
Cool. Yeah, I haven't seen that greenhouse in I don't know how long. Other concerns?
Just one item to note, construction at Apple Creek, that subdivision, just a mill and overlay, as well as park improvements. That is in full swing currently right now. So they're going to be looking to mill the pavement off on Wednesday, but Oaks is in there doing some gradings with the medians along Honadell that's going to be starting, and then as well as some grading for the park improvements that's right by the water tower there. So that work should be wrapped up within about a month.
But F-child thing, signage?
Yes, engineering received a request from a resident on East Oakview Lane, to have a death check health area signs and
You guys got any problems with that?
No, and Dale, that's in my district, and I have not received any comments from area residents in regard to that proposal, so I'm in favor of it. And I'm certainly okay with the two recommendations as well, about this will be there for 5 years, I believe it was, and that the resident had to inform the city if they happen. So placement of the sign, I'm fine with, and the conditions attached to that, I'm fine with as well. So I'm all good.
Motion on that?
Make that motion, Dale. So Dukenyak move to approve or accept the request to install a deaf child area signs on East Oakview Lane.
Cudahy seconds.
Roll call.
Dukenyak, aye.
Richards, aye.
Seifert, aye.
Cudahy aye.
Well, I've got you on the hot seat. Traffic signs. Light bulb came on as I'm coming into City Hall again. I always have this pet peeve of coming down Liberty Lane. Okay, going, what is that, north on Liberty Lane, coming into Forest Hill, down the block here. And there's a stop sign at Forest Hill Avenue to turn right as the road does. Why do we have a stop sign there? That's the challenge for you. If you were going in the opposite direction, there's no stop sign. But if you're going the other direction, there's a stop sign. Makes no sense to have a stop sign at that point is what I'm trying to say. Take a peek at that. Let me know. Any other concerns?
Yep.
There's one other item that we would just like to bring up for discussion here. We had received a concern from DPW that kind of stemmed from staff from the farmer's market, that they close Clock Tower Place for the farmer's market Saturday mornings. So Friday, they go out there, they put out the barricades, they keep Clock Tower Place open. Around 6:30 Saturday morning, the staff comes in to close down the road, and recently they've had cars that have been parking overnight on Clock Tower Place. So within the last couple of years, they put a sign up that says no parking Saturdays, 7 a.m. to 1 p.m. So when they get there at 6:30, 7 o'clock, there's a car there, they call for a tow, which takes several hours. So the last month or so, we talked to the PD, and on Fridays when they put the barricades out, they've been putting up a sign, like temporary, no police parking, no parking overnight. That has seemed to have kind of alleviated that issue of having cars parking there overnight. I don't know if we should proceed in that same way. I kind of do nothing. I just wanted to bring it to your attention, see if anybody had any suggestions. I mean, my personal thoughts, maybe we just change that no parking Saturdays, 7 a.m. to 1 p.m. to maybe 2 a.m. to 1 p.m. Or we can just leave it. Just wanted to bring the concern to your attention that we did receive.
District is that?
I think it's. So,
Yeah, the 6th district.
Memorize them.
so still learning. Actually, I have a comment in regard to that. Given the challenges of parking for the apartment residents, and let's say they have friends or guests that stay overnight, that may be part of the reason why you're seeing some of the overnight parking in the square area. I would hate like heck to take that away from residents of the apartment development. You know, why make things more challenging for them the way it is? I mean,
Getting their cars towed on a Saturday morning is going to be a challenge also.
yeah.
For them.
So I mean, I think what you had mentioned actually about placing it, was it a notice just on the barricades itself, or?
Right, yeah, and that's what they're kind of doing. I know this is kind of hard to see, but it's just kind of like an orange sign that DPW had created that that they set the barricades out on Friday, not necessarily closing the road yet, but then this sign is placed next to those barricades, just saying, no overnight parking on Clock Tower Place. And that's maybe what we continue to do, because then you've got, the food trucks on those Wednesdays. So then it's kind of more of a universal, hey, whenever we have an event that we're gonna need to shut down the road, this gives them.
My recommendation would be to continue in that manner, because the other ones change with, that you mentioned, the signs that indicate no parking Saturdays. I don't even notice them, honestly. Are they in ground? Are those permanent signs?
So they're on light poles. They're on
Okay.
light poles that
Oh,
are right
okay.
on Clock Tower Place. Yeah. Yep. So,
But that would be my recommendation.
all right. Yeah.
But suggest you make sure the alderman's aware of it and plant the seeds with that person to see what they might have a solution to, because ultimately he's responsible for those people that are living in those apartments.
No, to the errant excess parking issue, we've really seen that balance out since phase 2 was constructed and opened up. So that's been very helpful. I mean, I remember counting randomly 4 years ago, 30 cars around the square at 7 a.m. all because the phase 1 parking for Emerald Grove was so crunched. That's kind of leveled out new parking policies, the ability of phase 2 coming online to balance that. It's been very helpful. So I just wanted to put that out there that we aren't really seeing the necessity to park there. But again, on the weekends when you have company and things like that, it's pretty random now, where it was before it was very consistent that we had that extra parking need. So that's leveled out a bit, which is very good. I mean, very good. We also have to balance, the needs of the farmers market with the needs of the city 26 other weeks of the year, and the needs of the business owners on Friday nights and things like that. So, if we were to move, maybe it is that 2 a.m., but we'll just keep an eye on it. And maybe we need to get a more responsive tow company, and that would, once or twice would probably go a long way to people being reminded of the sign when they park there at 7 a.m. So we'll keep an eye on it and bring it back if needed.
Guys, got anything else? Andrew, Carr, Sully, get a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
Roll call.
Yeah.
Richards, aye.
Secret eye.